Hello, this is Angelo, and welcome to the Live Daily News Show. I'm James Bellini. We have a little bit of a different news show today because Angelo Mayor Tom Thompson visited the studio, and him and I had a pretty in-depth, long interview. So we're going to get into that, and then some weather after this word from Jim Bass.
Find your perfect Nissan at Jim Bass Nissan. With our incredible selection, generous factory rebates, and attractive dealer discounts, you can enjoy affordable monthly payments that fit your budget. Don't miss out on our amazing offers, like the stunning 2025 Nissan Frontier for just $499 per month. You can only find deals this great at Jim Bass Nissan, corner of Houston Hart at Arden Road, or shop 24/7 at jimbassnissan.com.
And welcome back, everybody. James Bellini here with Mayor Tom Thompson, TNT, if you know him personally.
Those are my
Mayor
initials. For people that don't know, that's
Oh.
actually my real initials, is TNT.
Mr. Thompson, how you doing?
I'm excellent. And you?
I'm doing great, man. How was your first, 100 days in office? It
we're right-
must have been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was 100 days, okay? And what some people, there's been a lot of people that have been, hey, it was a rough induction,
I bet.
induction, introduction, however you want to call it. It was, but I mean, it's what you signed up for.
Right.
And what I like to tell people is, yeah, we did have a flood, and it was, a very difficult thing for a lot of people to deal with. But behind the scenes, and everybody's heard this and they're tired of it, but I like to pat everybody on the back except me and Lane Carter. Okay, we got tons of credit for it, me and Judge Carter. The team around us was outstanding, and they had done a practice on emergency procedure. Our emergency management coordinator, little Jose Rivera, they were just awesome. And
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. We heard that Cameron Comes to the United Way. They kind of run like a simulation for a flood, like disaster previously to it.
You know what?
Having to dust that binder
they
off.
They can use that as an excuse for how well they did. I think they would have done that well anyway. It was just, by 7:38 in the morning, we were already making decisions. And I remember, and this is a story I haven't got to tell very much, but we were at the AgriLife Center, and it's Lane Carter, Sean Baxter with TDM, and I, and a couple other people, and Cameron. They already had the first busload of survivors there, and Cameron was sitting over there on the side, and she's kind of tapping her foot. I didn't know who she was from a large load of hay. I mean, I was like, are you a survivor or whatever? And then they introduced, no, she's in charge of the COAD and with United Way. I'm like, okay. And I was not in their training, so I'm learning as we go. And she was like, there was some point within the first 30, 45 minutes of being there, she's like, I need to move everything to Pauline. That's where I have my assets. That's where here goes. And we're like, what are you waiting on? And she's like, what do you mean? What are you waiting on? She goes, I need to get Pauline. So they picked up the phone, called Griff, Chief Griffith. Can we snake a bus over to Pauline? If we go down 87, get across, are there any, things that impede our progress to get this crew? No. Cummins, you're on. And I mean, she took it and she ran with it. But I think it was at that point that everybody agreed there would be no headwinds or egos in the room. We had a job to do. Everybody run with it. And it's one of those things where if you just kind of think about it and wave your hands over it, magically it would happen. And you'd want to go, hey, I want to pat myself on the back. But there were people there that, okay, I heard that. No, if you can do that and you can run with it, go. I mean, we did press conferences, and my thing on the press conferences comes from training back at the rodeo is you need to look organized. All right? You need to have all the information. You need to have a flow chart. You need to know who's going to speak first, who's going to speak second. Judge Carter is the highest seat within the county. Him, Chief Hannah or Sheriff Hannah, who doesn't like to be on the news. I mean, Hannah doesn't. I'm like, no, they need to hear from you at least this first time and roll. And then Chief Griffith everybody wanted to know about the rescues. And it was by far at that point the collective amount of information that everybody wanted to hear would come from Griff. So you need to schedule that time for him. Y'all were at the press releases, but the most important thing was to get out who was hurt, where the damaged areas were, where you could get, and let's get these people to, number one, get them to safety, get them taken care of. It was amazing the amount of people that just called and went, hey, we have this, we have that. Plus, we were getting the benefit of a lot of overspill that was trying to go to Kerrville. And for those of y'all, I mean, you think about it this way, your neighbors having a small party and everybody was trying to send product to it and they couldn't. and then that just kind of came back to us. So it was really a pretty cool benefit. And you would, if you watch the press releases, or I mean the press conferences, we had the opportunity to take our recovery from months down to weeks. And I mean, you can measure. I met with Jose yesterday, and we have very few people that are still out there that we hadn't been able to handle. And if they are, they didn't ask for help. It's hard if somebody doesn't tell you, hey, I need help, for us to find you.
Right. So where are we at today with recovery and all that?
So debris, there was a lot of people, and I got Senator Charles Perry from lives up at Clarendon. He was here, and he brought up a real good point. He said what really made people upset during Harvey and in Florida was the time the debris set on the side of the street. And he was right. I mean, it wasn't sitting here. 2 days into it, I was getting phone calls from people within District 2 up by the Coliseum, other places, and they were wanting to put in sea containers to move all their furniture in so they could start. I mean, we're not going to wait. The hardest pain for me was the distance from the flood to when we really created an organized muck and gut, because we're San Angeloans, we're very resilient, we're very self-conscious, we never ask for help, we don't dial 911. And that was the problem, was we had a lot of assets here that were here to muck and gut and clean up and go to help people. And you would, I mean, if I'd have called you, you'd have been, if I'd have called Joe, anybody, I got my own, you just let somebody else help. But we had all these assets in, and we didn't have enough people asking for help. So they would come in. There was a truck that came in to help the COAD to cook all the meals for him for a couple of days. He's like, how many people do you think I'm going to get? I'm like, I bet you don't get 40 people today. And he's like, 40. He goes, you've got several hundred here. I said, they aren't going to come try to get a free meal. Those people, they're just not going to ask for it. My mother-in-law is one of those. I think there are people that were part of the COADs whose homes were flooded and they took damage. To this day, those people have never asked for help. And they certainly qualify for all of that. One of the coolest things that happened that morning was I got a phone call, and it was the Area Foundation is going to take care of all the funding. And you don't know what a relief that takes off of your shoulders, because people were calling. And I think we sustained more commercial damage than probably Kerrville. All right, Kerrville, everything was up and down the river in its campgrounds. And they had some terrible, heartbreaks there with some loss, human loss. But when you look at damage up and down the river, commercially, San Angelo has more dollars in that. I was talking with Matt Lewis at the Area Foundation. Him, Mason, Janet, that whole group, they managed something that cities don't know. I mean, they matched it $250,000. So if you'd have done a GoFundMe, you pay 3.5%, and then are you getting actually your tax documentation that says, I need to take this off my profits because I did donate that to citizens in San Angelo. They are in the business to handle that. So you took somebody that knew how to handle that and put it in their lap and took it out of government. That was the coolest thing, because everybody called in, I want to donate this. Well, we don't even know where we can put. I think I turned down 2 truckloads of groceries that were coming from Dallas or Oklahoma City, but they were perishables, and they had been out of a secure, chain. And when perishables get outside of something where you've had USDA control over it, you can't guarantee if maybe did it get hot and then it got cool again. What's bacteria could have, you have to be real careful with some of that. So you have to make some game day decisions and go, I'm going to tell you no, but that doesn't mean I want you to understand that's a not now, but there may be other people within the line. So we were trying to direct, are you touching base with San Saba, Menard, working down that whole line of Fredericksburg. Something really cool. I'm in the animal health industry, and I had a friend of mine who lives in Baton Rouge, but he works for a nationwide animal health distributor. And he was trying to get rattlesnake vaccine to Kerrville. And he was like, it's, if you understand how vaccines work, you vaccinate and then you develop your immunity over a period of time before it builds up to its, basically a protective level. And he was like, we have tons of dogs down there that have not been vaccinated, and we need to get a vaccine. So I was like, you need to call these people and let them call those people. I called him back the next day. He said, oh yeah. He said, we called these people. They called those people. They drove in a truck down to Fredericksburg. They got the first hole in it. They, hot shotted it down to Kerrville. and I don't know how many dogs, cadaver dogs, things that they vaccinated, but you don't realize how many of those things are happening behind the scenes going on. And people that are in Baton Rouge, Louisiana are helping structure how to protect dogs in Kerrville, Texas. And so, you get to see what the press covers, what y'all cover. Y'all do an outstanding job of keeping everything open and transparent.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Yeah, go. And you don't see what people do behind that. You have no idea. Galilee, United Way, Concho, the whole COAD put together, and they took something off the shoulders of the city because the other cities didn't have that. I mean, they didn't have a group of, I would say 4,000 people ready to hop in and say, we don't care what it is. It was just amazing. So I can go on about the flood forever, but it was keep government out of the way, everybody do their job, and whatever you need, it's not a, no, we can't do that. It's a, we'll make that happen. We'll just see. It may take me a while, but let's make that happen. And it was great through everybody.
All right, well, good deal, man. Now you kind of brought it up that because obviously the north side got hit with the storm. I mean, you talked about the Coliseum. Everybody knows Coliseum's getting an update.
Yes.
We just had a Parker McCollum concert out there.
Were you
there for that?
I was there to go see Parker McCollum.
Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. It's really not the things I get to, but my wife wanted to go, and she informed me Friday morning that we were going to go Friday night. So I had to go buy tickets, and I don't know, I think I paid by the time tax and fees, it was like nearly $80-$90 a ticket. But for as little as my wife asked for, I was like, absolutely, we can go to Parker McCollum. Saw lots of friends, but it was, everybody's out there is having a great time. And I want to say that's just the start of things to come. I mean, I think they put nearly 4,000 people in there. And I don't even know if that broke even for the promoters. They had to get rigging crews out of Lubbock and Austin and hotel rooms.
There's the whole lot of stuff.
Oh, there's so much behind the scenes, the lights, they had to find a stage to do that, things that we don't have, but we will. I don't know if it made money for them. In fact, I bet it did not make money. But it's just the start of a bunch of things to come. I was leaning over telling a couple friends, imagine when this is 10,000 people.
That's what I was just about to. Were you sitting there imagining what it's going to be?
I was. There was lots of us, and I had lots of people bring that up, and they were like, so this will be 10. I said, in time, this will be 10,000 people. If you get the draw, you could put 10,000 people in there. And if you have 10,000 people that are willing to pay $60, $70, $80 a ticket, you can bring in some pretty big names. I mean, you get into that, I don't know if it's the A list, but you get into the upper B list real easy of bringing them in. So it'll be cool. But that's a long time away. And I think where you were going with this is a little bit of funding.
Well, I mean, that too, but I mean, just where we were at. So what about the funding? I mean, we okayed a bond for it.
$41.6 million. Actually, the bond rates came in cheaper. We were a cent cheaper per hundred. And we discussed that Tuesday at council. The rate, we kept the same tax rate that we've always had, 7,554 per hundred. And we lived within our means we have. But the balance on top of that was the bond, the city bond, the revenue, the Coliseum. So that gets stapled on top, and that was voted for. But that money is tagged and siloed. You can't do anything else with that money.
Right. You can't give that to flood relief or something.
And people were bringing that up, and I'm like, no, I mean, if I did not know how that was earmarked and tagged, that's not a bad idea. I mean, You're looking at all these people that are, they're hurt, they're distressed, they're without a home, and you kind of ball up about, I would hate to not be able to come home.
Oh, I would hate to be one of those people who doesn't have a home anymore and they're living out of an RV or something.
Exactly. There's difficulties there, but that money was ear tagged, and it's illegal to use it for anything except that Coliseum Pond project.
Now you're talking some big time charges probably if you do, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just can't. I mean, they would literally, you never would even get it out of the account.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, you can't like, oh, well, hey, I'm going to put this over here and slide it back. That's highly illegal. There's some gap rules. There's municipal. A lot of people don't understand about municipal government, and we just did a tax rate. It's illegal for a municipality to have an unbalanced budget. So if you say our budget's going to be $200 million, you have to have a projection, a very good projection of sales tax revenue, enterprise revenue, and property taxes. And let's say if it comes out to $200 million, this budget over here has to match the 200. So if you'll notice this year and what we did of our taxes, historically, Brenda as mayor, Brenda would go prior year less 5%. That's your budget. And I get that. This year I thought with the renovation of the Coliseum, the schools that we're going to renovate, some construction that we may potentially have some really huge economic development coming. I thought just our sales tax increase can't be below prior year, but you have to be, safe about that. So if we were aggressive and we just set our budget at prior year, what that allowed was, a 5% raise for city staff. City staff has lived off of 1.5% to 2%. It allowed us to fill some gaps to bring us back closer to market, paying our employees. Plus, it allows for some budget. But at the end of the year, this was, I call it Brenda's swan song. At the end of the year, we had a couple $1 million in funding that was dedicated in silos. So we got to take care of PD and fire department with some gear. We spent, about $3 million on things you have to have. But it's great knowing that I've got a surplus at the end of the year, and this is going to fill that gap. I don't have to go to the taxpayers to increase the tax rate. When you're that conservative, you keep your fund balances short. It worked out. In the end, you can't take bonded money. To do that, it'd been great if we could. It's a great idea, and I don't want to shame anybody for that. It's just illegal. You can't do that. But we lived within our means. We went with a moderately aggressive budget for the end of 25 into 26. So maybe at the end of the year we won't have a huge surplus, but throughout the year we'll be able to move that surplus into things we know we can budget for. We want to take care of people along the way. A dream of mine with the economic development here, it's kind of the worst kept secret in Angelo, is there's future of data centers. Drew Darby talked about it yesterday. Data centers in Texas are going to change the lifestyle of entire cities. The tax revenue off of those things, just one individual, those turn into $1 billion projects. You can go look at Abilene, what Abilene's done. And the money, the tax revenue that's going to come in for, city, county, and schools will change their future. And wouldn't it be nice to double or triple what you have over time? You got to realize those things phase in over 3, 4, 5 years. It would be great in a time to say that you could almost go, you could go no new revenue, and actually you could almost go, we're going to do a huge reduction. I don't want to throw out a number because somebody will hold me to it, but in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, when those things are fully up and they get assessed their total property value, it's going to change Texas. You're going to have people wanting to move to Texas because their property rates.
People are already moving to Texas.
I know they're coming, and we love it, and they realize what we've known a long time. This is a great place to live. But in the future, I would say you're going to see tax rates drop exponentially on property taxes for people that are in those areas that have data centers. And a misconception on a data center, a lot of people say, oh, hey, they use a ton of water. You can specify that in the development of a data center, you want it to have a closed loop water system. It's one initial charge, and then what they carry from then on out is a carriage loss of evaporation or something of that sort. There are several of them in their design now, and that technology keeps updating itself. They don't use a lot of water. You get an initial charge for a coolant system, but it's just a closed loop. I think those will change the face of San Angelo in the future. Huge.
How are we looking for the future of San Angelo? Any big companies coming that you can share, or maybe can't share, but maybe there's something coming down in the pipeline heading this way that is going to make life better for?
Well, the data centers are definitely one. There are some developments. With basically the old Sitel Tower over there, the technology tower.
That thing.
They're still working, but there are so many things that are coming there. We just approved the finance, and we just cut the contract yesterday to improve the south taxi lane at the airport, which puts it in for us to make 4 100 by 100, 6 100 by 100s, and I think there's 6 90 by 90s and 6 60 by 60 hangars, which are things that generate revenue for the airport. So at the end of the day, the airport doesn't make much money. It's totally FAA funded as best it can. And those people are looking for capacity. When you have capacity, people that want to refurbish airplanes and helicopters. They will take out a hangar, and they'll bring you a crew that will stay for 4, 5, 6 years. And when you do that, you're bringing economic development in. It's at your airport. You have capacity. The more you use an airport, the better it is. You qualify for more FAA funding. The thing that's been the hardest for our airport has been to get a second airline. And from somebody, I've got nearly 2 million miles flying in and out on American Airlines, starting in about 97. I love our airport. I love our staff. But it's hard for an independent. I've seen 3 different times another airline has come in here, and they just don't have enough seat load to make it pay. All right. American now only has 3 flights, but we have pretty much the same seat load. And I've been on lots of flights in here that only have 15 people on them, you know, coming in early in the morning. So that's great, but you have to realize, and we need to talk to American Airlines about this, Thursday nights, Friday nights, it's just, sometimes the planes are loaded so heavy that their luggage has to come in the next day. All right. To me, that's a heartache, the things people shouldn't have to go through. I would love to be able to see a structure more that, I would say, accommodated our peak period travelers. Our business travelers are Monday, 5 a.m., you know, 10:30 a.m., and then they're coming back Thursday night and Friday. We need to see if we can't work with American to come to a, let's help us manage this. Then summer, it's our church groups. We had a church group going to Costa Rica, and it was just a fiasco. But I think that was actually out of DFW instead of here.
No, I was coming back from DFW one time, and they put too much fuel in, and then I guess they had somebody get off, and he came back on. I was like, well, we have enough fuel. We should make it to San Angelo. I'm like, that's not the best thing to say when you're about to take off in a plane with, 30 people on here.
Well, there's minimums. When you're IFR, you have to have a minimum of 45 minutes. And I've seen planes get here and can't get on the ground and have to divert, but they don't divert back to Abilene or somewhere. They end up diverting all the way back to DFW.
Oh.
And that's hard, to do, but that's just FAA regulations and capacity on what can go. So it'd be great in the future if we would get enough capacity here. And I think John Austin Stokes over the Council of Governments, we would love to see San Angelo become, one of those, spaceports. Those people look for horizontal and vertical capability. You can't do the vertical takeoff somewhere around here, send a rocket. But if you look at, Firefly and a bunch of those things down around Austin, they're about 20 miles outside of town, but they're shooting rockets and satellites up all the time. And Midland's got a spaceport designation. I don't understand why San Angelo couldn't position ourselves to get some commerce that way.
Oh, Elon Musk won't do it.
Oh.
I dare you to do it.
Yeah, bring it here. I dare you, Elon. But there's so many things in the cooker, but these things take time. And when you talk to our economic development group, they've brought some commercial trucking and industry in, and there's some great things here. They bring about, I think during my campaign, I was able to quantify about 54 million in industries here, commercial industry that is here, that brings in through people and assets and things like that. But we're talking with people about things that take 3, 4, 5, 6 years to develop. The patience involved in that to handle those negotiations. And some people, why does it take so long? I'm like, you know what? If somebody's going to spend $4 billion on a project, it's going to take time to make sure you have all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. You just can't rush it and make an error. And those things take time to negotiate. We have so many great things in the oven that are cooking, and I think they should come out. We would have loved to announce them on the end of Brenda's term, and there's letters of intents that are signed, but we'll even get further down the line to get some things done. But it's not going to be because of me in this mayor term. It's because what council did the previous 8 years, the council did before that the previous 8 years. There's a lot of credit that goes back just making us in a position to take care of this. Alvin New and Dwayne Morrison, they deserve credit for a lot of things that are happening now. I mean, they don't get credit. You can call me like, oh, people forgot about me. No, if you know what's going on, you can look at what you did as a mayor, and you put us in a position to take advantage of these opportunities. Oh my gosh, I'm just rambling.
No. I mean, we had.
I get a little excited about that.
We had somebody from City and Development come in and talk, and one of the big things we always see in the comments is there's nothing for kids to do in town. There's nothing for kids. There's tons of parks everywhere. But he talked about, if Dave & Buster's is going to build a building here, San Angelo has to be able to support it at 300 families a night.
Yep.
That's just a number I'm throwing out. I don't remember the exact number he said. Maybe he was just throwing a number out. But that's the reason we don't have a Dave & Buster's, because they don't feel San Angelo can support that with the current population and everything, or for whatever reason, we can't support 300 families a night at a Dave & Buster's. And that's just them being, hey, we don't want to lose. I
don't know if I could afford. No, fortunately for me, both one's in the Air Force Academy, one graduated from Angelo State with a bachelor's and a master's, and he works in the industry here. I don't know if you can afford that. All right. But youth sports, youth activities, I was talking with maybe it was Chris Evett at First Financial the other day or somebody, and they talked about, I think parents are going to spend 40 something billion on youth sports over the next year or two. And you look at that number and think, gosh, that's a regional number, that's a national number, whatever it is. The number one thing people spend money on now is their highest cost is their kids. I like to remind mine that all the time. If I didn't have you, I could be living on a beach somewhere and retired. But we love our children. God put us here. Exactly. God put us here to make families and do what it is. We're all interdependent. I mean, we all live upon and depend upon each other. And that's everybody, whether it's the homeless, the commercial, the rich, the poor. We're all interdependent, and it takes all of us to move forward, and we all need each other. And that's just how it forwards. And how we look back at that is, what can I afford on a Dave & Buster's? I think a Dave & Buster's is huge, but I do think there's people that look at us and go, I think your market could take a venue here that could be used as a weekend venue that people could come and hang out. Big Spring put in a water park, of all things, and it actually worked out pretty good for them. It's somewhere you can go. You can take your family for a day or two. I see people do it. I have done it. I wish those people say, you know what, I'm going to San Antonio or Austin for a weekend. I wish we could keep those people here, but we have to put that in. And those are part of the negotiations that our economic development team has. All right, if you're going to bring something here that large and commercial, what is the benevolent part of what you proceed with? There's got to be something we do for the citizens. And they look at that. Instead of a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of other taxes, or abatements, you look at, okay, could you help develop something here? And those parts are in negotiations, which you don't see because they aren't public, but they're opportunities to develop youth sports programs. I mean, we have 3 or 4 projects that we're looking at. I mean, we've got a good one with the Texas Bank Complex there on Bell Street. It'd be great to expand that a little bit. But
that place is popping when they have tournaments out there. I mean, you can't hardly park.
The economic development that brings, and it's all about heads and beds, all right? Heads and Beds develops hot tax and gets funding and helps us expand that. And you want to see that grow. Baseball, it's a circuit. There's different people, and you want to be on their circuit, so they have one of their weekends that they have a big tournament is in San Angelo. We need to be on 12 or 13 different group circuits that they come at least once or twice. And number 2, we need to not be as susceptible to I would say, climate changes. Sometimes it'll rain and cancel a whole contest. So when that happens, everybody's in tears. Number 1, the city didn't get any money. The kids are mad because they didn't get to play. I mean, you kind of have to work on weatherproofing your facility or make it to where it's not as susceptible to those, I would say the factors that would make it shut down. And, indoor sports are going to be, indoor soccer, indoor volleyball, indoor, whatever it is, are going to become bigger things because it totally takes that off the plate.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have that.
You're going to have that. You don't have to worry about, the climate. You don't have to worry about environment. You don't have to worry about a thunderstorm. Is it a big thunderstorm? We thought July 3rd thunderstorms were just going to come through in a 3-hour roll. Well, they did. We just didn't know it was going to turn back up on itself, and it's part of a tropical depression. But you want to develop things that will bring people here. I have a son who's going to be 21 here in a couple days, and when he comes home for Christmas from the Air Force Academy, he'll go meet his friends somewhere in Austin or somewhere. He comes here and spends time with family. But you look at those entertainment venues, you want to build something that make people say, I had a blast in Angelo this weekend. I mean, and trust me, those things, they don't happen overnight, but those are on the very forefront of discussions that our economic development team and our Chamber of Commerce are working on to make Angelo one of those places that is going to be a perfect fit for somebody to come spend a weekend.
All right.
You got a little bit of my passion on that one. I was like, we want that to happen.
I mean, Abilene has prime time. They have the zoo, and if we're working towards that, that's great.
Well, they've got that Dodge Jones facility. They've had some things there, and once that gets in there, then they have to make sure that they can sustain it, support it. It's hard to have we had it, and I got to go back and give city staff some accolades and DMO. One of the first things I looked at during the flood when we got to ride in the DPS chopper was I asked to go out and look at the landfill. And me and Lane were talking about, I was like, we have to look at the landfill because we have so much debris. are we able to utilize our landfill? And we had some delays. Republic, people don't know what Republic, they lost every truck they had. They lost 37 trucks, I think was the number. And those are not cheap trucks. I forget how many millions they lost. And they went out and they were already bringing in trucks. They had that scheduled by Saturday afternoon. They were already scheduling trucks, spare trucks coming in from across the country. They were finding base materials so they could at least put down a good base to navigate and still be able to use and run the residential pickup. I don't know how much they spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars just accommodating that. And we had no financial obligation to go back and help them, and they did that on their own. But you look at what people have invested here and what they've done and what they've lost, and they haven't asked to be reimbursed in time. But in the end, everybody's in it to help the city. And that's the whole goal is, I realize, I mean, our streets, we're never going to be perfect with our streets. We've spent over $120 million the past 8 years on upgrading our streets, and we're working on our major ones right now. We're working on 29th, and we're finished with, College Hills. That was one of the base things. It's infrastructure. And for me, it all boils back to water. I mean, it's by far the most precious resource we have. We have to pull from Lake Ivy. When Lake Ivy turns over, we try to catch it in time. Sometimes you get some discolored water, which is an issue we have, but Ivy turns and you catch that, and we try to, at that point in time when that happens, we try to use our Hickory aquifer more than we're using Ivy, and try to blend that out. And it's just, it tests fine. It just has a little discolor, and I wash and drink, bathe in it every day. But sometimes you're like going, I understand people are mad about the water, but there's some things that not only happen to us, they happen in Midland, they happen in Abilene. There's environmental factors that happen that you have to adjust to, and we have the flexibility to do that, but we're all in it for the same thing. I mean, nobody sets up here and goes, I want to do this just to be the city and be evil. I mean, these are your neighbors, these are your best friends that work at city staff, at PD and fire department. And I think sometimes people forget that, especially on social media. They're throwing people under the bus, and I'm like, that's your neighbor right over there. That's probably that.
Telling me about social media.
Well, but I mean, it gives a voice a platform.
Gives every voice a platform.
It gives every voice a platform. Freedom of speech is one thing. It doesn't guarantee you a venue to do it. And some people try to take advantage of a venue. I mean, freedom of speech, you can say anything you want. I get it. It doesn't grant you the authority where you can go scream that. In some places, it's just inappropriate.
Well, my dad was on the water board in Dove Creek, and this woman and her family came in there, and they were dog cussing my dad and the board. You turned off our water, this and that. And my dad just said, I'm Greg Bellini, I'm your neighbor.
Yes.
And then it just kind of just shocked him a little bit. Oh, I didn't realize that these people live out here and are dealing with the same things we deal with. And
you brought it up. We'll go ahead and discuss it. We're not prepared to discuss it in detail yet because I'm still getting some information. But right now, we have a Concho River project, which is a reclamation water project, and we'll go into that. And this one has gotten a lot of attention the past week or two. Several years ago, with the start of the Concho River project, we filed for a discharge permit, all right, which has already been granted several years ago. So the city of San Angelo already has approval to discharge into the Concho River for our reclamation. So the plan is it discharges in, you put highly treated effluent water into the river, it travels 8.1 miles, you have a pipeline, and a retrieval point basically, and you pick it up and you bring it back in to a treatment facility and you treat it again. So to me, it's a reclamation project, but San Angelo has already had the approval to do that. Now we have to do that to TCEQ standards. And trust me, TCEQ is very stringent upon their standards. They're not going to, and what's happened on social media is people think that we're going to throw raw sewage in the Concho River. There could be nothing further from the truth.
Right.
All right. And that I went and had a meeting. I went to a meeting in Miles the other night, and they were kind enough to let me come talk to them. I said, number one, I've known half of y'all in the room for 40 years. You're my friends, your family. My in-laws have some property on the Concho River. We've all got skin in the game. Wouldn't do that. But if we can pull this off, and we have to upgrade our plant, so I need a couple $100 million. If somebody has a couple $100 million, they can give us to upgrade our wastewater plant. Then we're going to need several million to build a pipeline to take it from 8.5 miles or 8.1 miles downstream all the way back. We're going to have an improved water treatment facility before we could even use that. But those processes are already being used in the state of Texas and being used successfully. And on social media the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, everybody has seen it's a bed and banks permit. All that is the city of San Angelo would like to have the ownership of what we put in to pull out. I mean, right now there's a canal system that a lot of the very best farmers are using to irrigate with, which is a lot of our discharge. All right, so it doesn't have to be treated as long as it's using on irrigated land. That's been in place for 30, 40 years. But if San Angelo is going to put 8, 9, 10 million gallons a day into the Concho, they want to be able to have the rights to pull out that, less the carriage loss. There's been some questions on testing that I think were very valid questions. How much do you test? How often do you test? You have to do that. You know, what you put in versus what you put out. But it's 5, 6 years down the line before it. But I mean, those things just don't happen. You don't go get the permit. You don't build the facility till you get the permit. So it's been on our website for a long time about the Concho River project, and it's a reclamation project. And people have brought up, well, the classification of the river is the Concho River classified. I believe it's a pristine river. We're not, but that's an issue with Texas, not with us. The ship has sailed on us getting a discharge permit. We've had that for a couple of years, but we can't do that until we upgrade our facility to the standards required to do it. And no means would we ever do that until we get those, and until we meet all the guidelines, until we build a pipeline. I mean, I need somebody to come up with another $15 million to build a pipeline. But you don't do those things until you have the approval to do it. I mean, it would be a huge waste of city money to actually build those plants and upgrades until we knew that we were going to be able to execute them and use them. So that's a good. I mean, I've got calls from Darby's office, from Judge Carter, August Pfluger. I kept them in the loop, and they were texting me last weekend, 2 weekends ago, saying, hey, we've got people bringing this up. And there was, people went wild on Facebook. They're fixing to throw all this raw sewage in the river. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I just say on that particular project, if you got your information off Facebook, I didn't see any of it that was right. I have seen some people that have come back and
imagine that.
Yeah, I've seen some people that have come back in and made some statements and said, you know what, we didn't quite understand the difference between a discharge permit and a bed and banks permit. And you have to discharge to go in, then you need the ability to pull it back out with your bed and banks permit. But you know what? If I didn't know about it and research it, I would have the same question. So I don't want to say shame on you, but I'm saying maybe somebody could have made a phone call and said, hey, what do we have here? Can we get together? And I made that obligation to the people in Reynolds County that in a couple of weeks I would come back and bring some people from the city to answer questions. Shane Kelton is working on an operation, just a frequently asked questions list about how this is, and we looked it over last night. It's coming out today, but it talks about this whole program and what the purpose is. And a lot of people said, well, don't you have enough water inputs for Angelo? We don't. I mean, with the way the town's growing, I don't feel comfortable to the extent of our water is, and we're not going to have a gap of trying to pursue this to extend our water supply while I'm there. I mean, we're going to work on this daily.
All right.
Okay, so our little 10-minute interview.
No, I mean, we'll have more people in next week.
We have
more people in next week. We can talk about in depth a little bit more and really get to the nuts and bolts of it and kind of lay out correct information for everybody.
Absolutely.
So they're not just saying you're throwing sewage water in the river that we drink from.
Right. And I mean, it amazed me, some of the people, and I knew them that were on that list, and I was like, okay. And I mean, they have my number, and I've talked to some of them, but what's funny is they can file if you have water rights on the Concho River and that whole chain all the way down to the Gulf, you can file a protest. But I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, and I asked Todd, I said, I think it's only if you have water rights can you file a protest. And there have been people saying, well, we're going to get a petition against the discharge. I'm like, well, that's already been granted several years ago. So I don't know how successful that would be against something that's already been ratified over 24 months, 28 months of being in place. But people have concerns, and they're absolutely valid concerns. We as the city have to prove that we can do it up to the standard to make sure it's clean, and we have to hold true to that. I mean, you elect us, we appoint people, we hire people to make sure they do that, and I think that the team we have in place is very capable of pulling that off to where everybody's comfortable with it.
All right.
So anyway, now we talked about the Concho River project too.
Oh, no, I mean, well, I'm glad we got it.
Oh yeah, that's a start, but I would love here in a couple of weeks to bring on our water department and let them come in. There's some people that used to work here that now work at CRMWD, and they use the same process. We met with them last week in Big Spring, and they were like, as somebody that uses this process already, we're going to support you, and they probably have more water rights up and down the river than anybody else. Got to see your testing, got to make sure the elements for us to feel comfortable with it are in place. Once we prove those are in place, not only to those people, constituents, and CRMWD and TCEQ, then we'll move forward. But we by far don't move forward throwing toilet water. I think some people thought this was a toilet to tap system, and it's not. This is a highly treated water system, and basically the water you get out of it should by far be better than the natural, naive water that's in it today. All right, and those are the standards we'll live by.
All right.
Cool.
Well, Mr. Thompson, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
You have been so kind to help me with my 10-minute interview. And
Well, you can.
I'll,
Hey, man,
I'll
we talk
use
as
the
long
old
as you
I'll
want.
use the old catchphrase, short story long. All right, it's there's never a short one, but people have the right to know, and I can't thank y'all. Y'all are by far one of the most popular media outlets, and a lot of people, the whole crew, get your message out. They come to y'all for information, and it's great when it's unbiased, clear, transparent, accurate information.
Hey, man, like I said, we're not going to cut this interview at all. We're going to play it exactly as long as we've been sitting here talking. That's what we're going to play. We're not going to cut it to make you look bad, look good, no matter. We're just going to let you.
It's balls and strikes, and I appreciate your ability to, y'all's ability to do that. And I think, y'all have done an outstanding job starting with from, I remember when Joe first started this years ago to now. Y'all are the go-to that people go to quite often to get their, immediate news. And as long as we can put out things like this that are clear, transparent, I think it's awesome.
Well, anytime you want to come on and talk, anytime you want to send somebody, hey, we need to get this out, go talk to Angelo.
And we will.
Just send
I
them,
think we
text
need
us.
to, we never need to be afraid to be transparent. And that's something my opponents, Trinidad and Gary Jenkins, brought up is there enough transparency to what we have? I think there's a lot, we've got over 11, 12, 1,300 hours of information that's on our website, on our YouTube channel. Nearly everything you find, you can go get that information. But people like live and immediate information. They don't want to go back and trudge through it. So we'll try to do a better job of keeping that more relevant.
Oh, man, anytime you want to send someone, just send them. Just text
careful.
us, let us
Be
know.
careful.
We'll gladly have them on. And if some controversy comes up in town that people are upset about online, like the Concho water, just send them. And we can set the record straight.
There's people, I feel sorry what the school board has to deal. I mean, they've had some issues that have come up with school board in Lakeview, and you're like, glad that wasn't me in that one. And you just say prayers and go, but those are people that have to understand long term. I mean, your short term gain doesn't need to ever outweigh your long term objectives. And I think the long term objective with a lot of the school things is safety. I heard Dr. Moran say that several times is, can you sleep at night knowing that you had the opportunity to keep everybody safe and you didn't? And those are things that people are bringing up. There's going to be speed bumps along the way. Any project, we're going to have speed bumps with the renovation of the Coliseum, all of that, all of the development the next 20 years. It's never going to be perfect. And everybody's got to sit back and relax and say, are we weighing the short term versus what's safest for our population for the long term? And that's where I'll go with that.
All right. Well, Mr. Thompson, Tom, we appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
Man.
Thank you for the time. Appreciate
Absolutely. Back to you guys. Republicans in Congress, alongside President Trump, delivered a transformative piece of legislation last month on America's 249th anniversary. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is the largest working families tax cut package in American history. It is a massive win for Texans and will help foster an economy that is pro-growth, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-business, and pro-energy. The Working Families Tax Cut locks in President Trump's historic 2017 tax cuts, protecting over 475,000 taxpayers in Texas's 11th congressional district from a devastating 26% tax increase, which would have been the largest in American history. Seniors in Texas, 88% of whom receive Social Security benefits, will now pay zero taxes on those benefits because of this bill. Hourly workers will keep more of what they earn, with no tax on overtime pay, tips, and even interest on car loans for new American-made vehicles up to generous limits. This will put thousands of dollars back in the pockets of hardworking Texans. This legislation also delivers $13.5 billion in border reimbursements for states like Texas and makes the most significant investments in border security ever seen. It reclaims America's energy independence, lowering energy costs for all Americans, creating high-paying jobs in the Permian Basin, and reversing President Biden's disastrous energy policies. Congressman Pfluger fought to make sure Texas values were reflected in this package, from much-needed support for farmers and ranchers through strategic investments, to ending forced taxpayer funding of abortion, to nearly $150 billion in military investments that will directly support the incredible men and women serving at Goodfellow Air Force Base and Fort Hood. It does all this and so much more. The American people were tired of business as usual in Washington. The Working Families Tax Cut Package is a clear response to what the American people demanded in November. Rein in wasteful spending, secure the border, and make life genuinely affordable again. Nothing is perfect, but this legislation delivers historic, tangible wins for Texans. All right, and we'll be back with weather after this word from Jay Chandler.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
Into weather right now, it's 88 degrees outside with a high up around 90, and the low tonight will be down around 65. Tomorrow the high gets up to 91. It'll be mostly sunny outside, and the low comes in around 67 tomorrow night. On Thursday, it'll be 91 again, mostly sunny again, and the low will again be 67. Then on Friday, we have a 20% chance at some rain. The high will be 90, and then the low Friday night will be 66. And we'll be right back after this message from Condos, Diamonds, and Coins.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Cano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Cano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thank you for watching the Live Daily News Show, the only locally owned news show in the Concho Valley. Go like us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms, and download the San Angelo Live mobile app. For the live team here, I'm James Bellini, and we'll see you